Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Ashram We shall go through one or two incidents of Bhagwan's glory, one or two stories of his glory. We have been seeing glimpses from his own life, glimpses of him with some of his devotees, and then his teachings, now and then. Now we shall once again see how this grace expresses itself in different ways, in different circumstances, with different devotees, with different problems. There was one Ganapati, Sri Ganapati ji, a Tapovanam devotee, a devotee of Sri Jnananandagiri Swami of Tirukovilu. Whenever, from the late 60s, we find Bhagwan going to Tapovanam on certain occasions, and there many devotees of Sri Jnananandagiri Swami became familiar. They got used to him, seeing him. They got used to his darshan also there in Tapovanam. And some of them moved closely with him. And after Jnananandagiri Swami's Mahasamadhi, these devotees began to visit Bhagwan regularly. They began to see the one divinity in both these masters. Sri Ganapati was also attached to Bhagwan, as he was to Sri Jnananandagiri Swami. And once in Tapovanam, he was bitten by a poisonous scorpion. People could die of it. So this poison was slowly spreading everywhere, and he swooned. Bhagwan happened to be there. He took Ganapati on his lap and began to fan him from head downwards. As he was fanning, the poison began to descend. And somehow, after some fanning, the poison completely was drained out. And he survived this attack. Another time, those days when Bhagwan was staying in Sannadi Street house, we find in the records sometimes Bhagwan going out of the house, out of Tiruvannamalai for a day or two, for some important reason. Otherwise he wouldn't move. Right from the time he said Tiruvannamalai to Papa Ramdas, when he asked where he would go. It came spontaneously from the depths of his being, Tiruvannamalai. So Papa Ramdas said, that is your place. You do your work from there. And that's how it all started. Though of course it took 7 years for Bhagwan, 7 years of wandering all over India, from Kanyakumari to Himalayas. After he landed in Tiruvannamalai, on very few occasions he went out. This was one of the times he told Ganapatiji, this beggar has to go out. So you be here in Sannadi Street house as long as this beggar doesn't return, then you be here, you light a lamp. Every day you light a lamp and then recite Vishnu Sahasranama. While doing this, you would hear the hissing sounds of snakes. He said it in plural. You would hear the hissing sound of some snakes. But don't be frightened. They would not harm you. They would not do anything to you. You just go ahead with your recital of Vishnu Sahasranama. So every day, Ganapatiji would light a lamp and then start reciting Vishnu Sahasranama. He would be very frightened. He would be trembling also sometimes out of fear. And of course, true to what Bhagwan said, he heard the hissing noises of some snakes. What was more, he saw with his eyes snakes snaking away from the place. After that, when Bhagwan returned, when Bhagwan inquired how it was going, Shri Ganapatiji reported everything, that he did hear the hissing noise of the snakes and he also saw them moving away. Then Bhagwan said, you are very brave. You did not give up the recital despite the fear that you felt. My father blesses you, Ganapatiji. And then he blessed him nicely. It looks as though, just as he was bitten by a poisonous scorpion and Bhagwan had to get it out, the poison out of his system, it could be that he had the imminent danger of a snake bite. And Bhagwan probably saved him from a certain death by snake bite. In the horoscopes, we find a mark of this. Some people would have done some terrible things to the snakes in their past. And that would become a dosha, as they call it. There would be some reaction, some follow-up, some effects of this bad karma in this birth, and it could result in death also. Another time, Another story. All this was narrated by his friend Bromai Jayaraman when he had come here to the ashram. In one of those functions of Aradhana or Jayanti, I don't remember, he spoke all this. He also said that once Ganapati ji, he was in Chennai and he was doing some ceremony for the soul of his father who passed away. And then Bhagwan promised to come and take food on that day in his house. They would put 3 leaves and invite the gods to come down and partake the food. One for the soul, and one for Lord Shiva, and one for Lord Vishnu. And Bhagwan was in Tiruvannamalai at that time, but Ganapati ji said Bhagwan did come and he did partake food on that particular day from the leaf of Mahavishnu. These stories give us glimpses, the various dimensions of Bhagwan's spiritual ministry. We do not know how Bhagwan blessed through all these actions this particular devotee. But surely, everything that Bhagwan did for any devotee is his boundless grace, a great blessing. I remember something like Bhagwan moving out for a day or two. Another time, one Chandramauli was there, connected with Shri Paramacharya. He used to come to Tiruvannamalai also, and he would go to Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar. He visited him. Once Chandramauli was with Bhagwan. This story was given to us by Shri Appanayangar. Appanayangar knew Chandramauli. He heard it from Chandramauli, and then he narrated the story. He said Chandramauli was there with Bhagwan, and one day suddenly Bhagwan called out. He said, Chandramauli, get a taxi for this beggar. This beggar has to go to Kanchipuram. There was some necessity for his going to Kanchipuram. So Bhagwan suddenly declared, we will go to Kanchipuram. At that time, Sri Perumalappan was with him. There are 2 occasions. It would seem there were 2 occasions on which Bhagwan went by taxi for Darshana Paramacharya. This was one of them. Perumalappan happened to be with the Swami at the time, and then Swami said, Perumalappan, this beggar wants you to be here in Sannadhi Street house. This beggar is going out. You please stay here. Look after this house until this beggar comes back. So Perumalappan stayed there for 2 days, for maybe one day. And when Bhagwan returned, Bhagwan had gone for the darshan of Paramacharya, and according to Appanayangar, Paramacharya gave, this time Paramacharya talked to him. They had a conversation, something very important about India, about the protection of this holy land. And then, when Bhagwan was going to leave, Paramacharya brought a silver Ganesha Murti, a silver Murti of Lord Ganesha. It is actually a small box. It was it contained bhasma, that is vibhuti, the ashes. So Paramacharya came and gave it to Yogi Ramsuratkumar and left him. When Bhagwan returned to Sanadi Street House at Tiruvannamalai, he saw Perumalappan was so sincerely looking after the house, without touching anything, without doing anything to the house or to the contents of the house. Bhagwan was very pleased with him. And then Bhagwan said, "My father blesses Perumalappan. Perumalappan has done a lot of work for this beggar. Perumalappan has helped this beggar for father's work. My father blesses Perumalappan." And then he gave the silver Ganesh Murti to Perumalappan. Perumalappan came and narrated this to Appanayangar. And as the story, at the end of the story, we hear that Perumalappan gave it away to another close friend of his. Generally, we don't do that when Bhagwan gives something. Whenever Bhagwan gave something to anybody, we have to preserve it. Bhagwan always insisted upon that, because if he gave a fruit, even a plantain or a small piece of sugar candy, that person, a doctor cannot give a tablet for one disease to another patient who is suffering from another disease. So whatever Bhagwan gave was a communication of blessings, and it was always specific. So we get these glimpses from these stories from the experiences of the devotees. Now this Bhagwan one time helped this Perumalappan out of a grave situation. That is, at that time Perumalappan was suffering from a certain difficulty. His son somehow got involved in a case. The customs people from Chennai used to come and threaten Perumalappan, "If you don't give us money, we would put him in jail. We would file a case against him, arrest him, put him in jail." So by threats, they were taking bribe of thousands of rupees. Because this process was going on for quite some time. Every time they would come and collect money regularly. With the threat, if Perumalappan did not give the money, they would file a case against his son and put him in jail. Now when the money reached 2 lakhs, Perumalappan thought that was it. He rushed to Bhagwan and appealed to him. Bhagwan heard this preposterous story. Then he said, "Perumalappan, next time when those customs people come and demand money from you, demand a bribe from you, don't give it to them. You tell them, okay, if you want, you file a case. You do whatever you like. My father will see to the rest." And then Bhagwan added something. He said, there is a Kuladevata, the deity of the villages, worshipped specifically and specially by a particular family. Each family has its own deity for worship. So Bhagwan said, you go to your family deity's village, and there in the temple of your family deity, you take a lemon with you every day for 40 days you take a lemon with you. And then the deity, the family deity, there was a trident with the murti of the family deity. You have to put this lemon on this trident, on the tip, on the sharp tip of the trident, press it down and worship her and come away. Every day for 40 days you have to observe this. Worship your family deity and then put a fresh lemon on the tip of the trident. Fix it there. Prostrate and come. So 40 days Perumalappan did as was instructed, as instructed by Bhagwan. And after that, the court, they filed a case because he was not giving money, but then somehow the judge found this his son not guilty, and so they just put a fine of some 700 rupees or some 600 or 700 rupees. It ended easily without any dragging on. So Perumalappan rushed once again to express his gratitude to Bhagwan. And then Bhagwan said, they have fined 600 rupees. Don't pay it. You tell them you won't pay it. And then after some time, even that was waived. So we do not know why Bhagwan asked Perumalappan particularly to stay for the time when he was out, and he presented him a Vigna Vinayaka, a Ganesh Murti. Ganesh Murti, he is the destroyer, remover of obstacles. He would destroy all the vignas, meaning all the sufferings could easily be destroyed by Ganesh Murti if you worship him. And then, true to that, Perumalappan's problem was solved. So these things tell us how the grace works in different cases, in different ways, according to the needs of the situation. But the grace and the gracious Bhagavan is always the same, eternal and ever-flowing. And here is this Bhagavan, all-powerful Bhagavan, all-knowing Bhagavan, all-pervasive Bhagavan, in the form of his Murti, with his hand raised in benediction. We shall offer our today's prayers at his feet, seeking once again relief from the suffering of the world. Bhagavan, how you have averted the sufferings of devotees in different situations. Now here is one situation. The corona poison is occupying the whole world. It's threatening